Thank you, madam. It's my pleasure for sharing whatever I can understand about the Kumbhak therapy. And I'm thankful to these Ashtanga Chikitsa folks and Avisa healing. Today, I'm going to brief you about some basic understanding of Kumbhak therapy. I'm only going to speak on the science aspect of it, not the yoga or the philosophy of Kumbhak or pranayam. See, we all of us know that we inhale the atmospheric air into the lungs. This atmospheric air contains oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, helium, water vapor, and so many other gases. But we are not bothered about the other things. We are bothered about two important gases which are very, very essential for our body functioning. Those are the oxygen, which is very, very important for the survival of all the organs in our body, and the carbon dioxide, which also plays some important minor role in our physiology of respiration. Now, as far as the physiology is there, we know that oxygen is needed for proper functioning of the organs in our body. When we take air, the oxygen moves in along with the air itself, where it contains the oxygen. And when it goes inside, the oxygen is dissolved in the blood. And the blood, where it comes from, heart is pumping the blood into the lungs. And lungs takes up the oxygen, and via the heart, this is pumped out to the different organs. That is how all the organs in our body functions. This is very, very important. Now, when we understand simple basic thing is that we have two phases of respiration. One phase is the inspiration or inhalation. The second phase is expiration or exhalation. Now, right from our birth, we keep on inhaling and exhaling the air. This occurs automatically. There is no control of anything. It starts from the birth till the death. This is all we know about the respirations. Now, oxygen, when it enters, it gets dissolved in the blood and supplied to the organs. Organs, they function properly. Because of any reason, whether some defect in the chest, some defect in the oxygenation, some defect in the lungs, or there is some defect in the breathing pattern, which alters because of the disease or illness, there won't be proper oxygenation of the organs, and hence the organ suffers, and we all get the disease or the ailment, whatever we know of. Now, what is a Kumbhak? Kumbhak is nothing but holding the breath. So there are two ways of holding the breath. Immediately after inhalation, we hold our breath. That is what is called as Antrik Kumbhak. And when we exhale the air from the lungs, we may also hold some of the air, that is Bahir Kumbhak, that is called the expiration Kumbhak. So we can hold our breath in two. And let me tell you why we hold the breath sometimes is when we are not able to perform the good functions of the lungs, we switch on to the Kumbhak at times. Kumbhak helps in various ways. Now, what is the mechanics of respiration? For the air to enter our lungs, we need a good muscles. What are the muscles which helps in the respiratory mechanics? The most important is the chest muscles. The chest muscles are of two types. One is intrinsic and extrinsic, intercostal muscles. They are intersecting with the costal cartilage and the ribs that we have on the chest. So when they contract, we inhale the air. When they relax, we exhale the air out. Other than the chest muscles, there is very, very important organ, another big muscle which takes part in respiration actively, that is a diaphragm. Other than the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, the neck muscles like scalenii and other muscles also take part in active inspiration and expiration. All these muscles have to be coordinated properly. Then only the functioning of the lung and the oxygenation of organ takes place. Now, it is a continuous phenomenon. There is no question of Kumbhak or something like that. There's inspiration, then little pause, then expiration. It automatically starts. There is no Kumbhak in between. But we manually do it, the Kumbhak, that there is a retention of air inside the lungs. Now, lungs, as we know scientifically, that the lungs have got different lobes. Lungs have got the bronchus, the division of bronchus, and air sacs, alveoli. So these are the small parts of the lungs. And this is aerated always, but not all the parts of the lungs are equally aerated. There are certain parts of the lungs, like in the upper lobe and some in the lower lobe and posterior lobe of the lungs, the lung is not aerated. That means the air is there, but there is no oxygen. Then it becomes a dead space. It's called a dead space. Now, physiologically, we have a total lung capacity. That means what a volume of air that lung can hold. The total lung capacity. It is called total lung capacity, which comes to about 8 liters or so, 6 to 8 liters. But we are not taking 6 to 8 liters in each inspiration. We are taking about 4 to 6 liters. The rest all volume is in the dead space, where there is no aeration. If there is aeration also, there may not be a blood supply. So hence, there is no exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide across the lung tissue. This is very, very, very important to be noted. Now, we all know the chest muscles, but many of us, we don't know about the diaphragmatic muscles. Majority of the people, they do this respiration through the intercostal muscles and the neck muscles. The diaphragm muscles are also very important, and the health of a person is equal to the diaphragm. The diaphragm is nothing but a thick muscular partition in between the chest and the abdomen. So it moves up and down. When you inhale, then what happens? The diaphragm comes down and there is a pressure in the abdomen. When we exhale, the diaphragm comes up. Automatically, air is sucked. When we inhale, there are two things occurring physiologically. One is air is sucked in. That means oxygen is getting in. And when we exhale, the diaphragm comes out. The air is ejected out. That is the expiration. Now, other part of that is also very interesting is when the diaphragm moves and up, when the air is sucked, there is also blood is sucked from the lower limbs. When the diaphragm goes up, the blood, which is very in a large volume in the lower limbs, is sucked in. During inspiration, it is just sucked in. During expiration, there is a blood supply. And most of the heart muscles also get blood supply during expiration. That's very, very important. So the muscles has to work continuously right from birth till death. That is what is called as a health. But sometimes because of various reasons, we get into a problem because of the disease, chronic disease or acute illness, we get into respiratory problem, causing inefficiency in oxygenation of lungs and oxygenation of organs indirectly. So as I told you, vital capacity is 4 to 6. About 1 to 2 liters of the space is dead where there is no variation at all. There is no aeration. There may not be a blood supply. There is no exchange of the gases. The Kumbhak is, there are, as I explained to you, there are two types of Kumbhak, inspiratory and expiratory. That is, inspiratory is Antrik Kumbhak and expiratory is Bahari Kumbhak. When we withhold the breath, what is the meaning of a Kumbhak? Kumbhak is nothing but a pot filled with air. When we hold our breathing in inspiration, there is a lot of air which is there available for gaseous exchange in the lungs. Otherwise, it shortly stays and comes out during expiration. So manually, we have to practice this Kumbhak. There are so many types of Kumbhaks. I don't want to go into the details. During this, what happens? There is a sufficient time for exchange of gases. The gases exchange are oxygen gets into the blood. The carbon dioxide waste, the toxic thing which comes out of the blood into the lungs, and we expel it out during expiration. Now, I also told you it is not only the oxygen, but the carbon dioxide also. When there is a Kumbhak, when we are holding the breath during expiration or inspiration, what happens? There is sufficient time for exchange. Oxygen gets into the blood, carbon dioxide gets into the lung. But this carbon dioxide retention in the blood itself causes vasodilatation. That means blood vessels are dilated, especially in the brain. So the brain starts functioning. And carbon dioxide is a best stimulus for the inspiration and expiration. It doesn't mean that more carbon dioxide will be much, much better. It is not like that. But minimum amount of carbon dioxide has to be there for a proper respiration also. It is not only the oxygen itself. So that is very important. The function of respiration is purifying oxygen. That is, carbon dioxide is out and oxygen is inside. Now, during Kumbhak, what happens? It manually you manipulate. Either you hold the breath during inspiration or you hold during the expiration. During this, what happens? The organ functions properly because of rich oxygenation. There is plenty of time for exchange of gases. And there are various elements which can be cured by this Kumbhak therapy. There are various Kumbhak therapies which I am not going to detail. Swamiji will be able to brief you. And what are the things which are the benefits of Kumbhak therapy? The benefits is it helps to alleviate the symptoms of some of the chronic disease. I never said cure. It alleviates the symptoms. It helps in the process of healing of certain diseases. What are the diseases? Chronic ailments. Chronic ailments are such as the chronic bronchial asthma, hypertension, diabetes, what is called as a sugar, high sugar. It improves the immunity and it improves the sleep quality. That's very, very important. It also helps in some mental disorders like anxiety and depression. This is very important. Not only it improves the immunity, but in so many mental diseases, it helps to reduce the symptoms of anxiety and depression. It improves the sleep quality. And most important is it improves the endocrine functions of the body. So many endocrine functions are there, like for thyroid, adrenaline, and the pancreas, islet of Langerhans, and many more things. They help it in when we do a Kumbhak therapy. It also helps in digestion, because I told you when you take deep inhalation and hold it, that is inspiratory Kumbhak, it causes a pressure on the abdomen. The pressure itself is like a massage. As we do external massage for our body muscles, when you do the internal massage through Kumbhak, what happens? The blood flow to that organ becomes more and it gets more oxygen supply so that it can function much, much better way. Efficiency of an organ increases. But we also know the dead space. Dead space contains not utilized air. So when we get into Kumbhak, that space is also reduced so that 90 to 99% of the lung tissue gets oxygenated, aerated. That's very important. And it purifies the dead space so that you get a more oxygen. Your vital capacity increases. Your performance will increase. This is very important. Thank you.